are live with Richard Sloman.
Oh, awesome.
How are you doing, sir?
Fine, and yourself?
Good, man. Good. Thank you for being on the show. Hey.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I mean, we've chatted for I don't know how many years, and I don't think we've ever physically met.
No,
So,
I was thinking about that this morning. I mean, I think it was good 10 years that we've been working.
Yeah.
Just to so we can tell people who you are. You were head of marketing for Chrysler South Africa. Am I right?
Well, I was head of PR.
PR.
Yeah, it was PR, but I was part of the marketing department. So yeah, I was there for a number of years. I was there when the days of the Fiats and the Alfa Romeos, and prior to that, I was with Mercedes-Benz. So I've had this career that's just gone from one merger and acquisition to the next, and it's a typical where I've been at 3 or 4 different jobs, but I've stayed at the same desk.
That's insane. Yeah, because Chrysler, I mean, they did a lot of moves. I mean, like you said, they were on their own. Then they were joined up with Mercedes-Benz, and then with Daimler, and then that broke down. And then they set up then broke down. Then they moved over and they joined up now with Fiat, who I think they're still together with.
That's correct. Yeah. I mean, there was a stage where they were in bankruptcy and they were taken over by some fund in the States, had them for a couple of years. Mm. But then Fiat came along and rescued them. And yeah, the rest is history.
Chrysler's always, it's such an interesting brand. I mean, because under Chrysler sits Dodge. Dodge sits in there. Who else is? I mean, obviously the Chrysler cars, and there was another brand that sat in there as well. Was the Plymouth?
Well, yeah, Plymouth was many years ago, and I mean that brand died probably about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But there's Ram Trucks is also in there,
yeah,
which originally started out as Dodge Ram, and then they changed it a number of years ago just to be Ram by itself. Yeah, and I mean, Viper was in there as well with the SRT brand. But again, a lot of that has changed. So now basically Chrysler, Dodge, and Ram, along with Jeep, are still available fully in the States.
Jeep. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the other one.
And then Europe, Dodge, Chrysler fell away a couple of years back. And that's when Fiat took over, and they took on a few of the models, changed the names to Lancias, and were selling the vehicles in Europe that way. But yeah, Ram and Jeep are sort of the big money spinners for the brand. And yeah, they do pretty well, particularly in the States.
But that was always, I mean, Jeep in South Africa is big. I mean, I always heard that Jeep kept Chrysler going in South Africa because of the love of the Jeep. But I never understood why. I know it's got to do with left-hand drive and right-hand drive. Why they never brought the Rams into South Africa? I mean, this is Ram country. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. But unfortunately, they never built them in right-hand drive, which was the main reason. There are a couple of companies locally that have brought them in. Yeah, they've done the conversions and that. But how they got through homologation here, I don't know. But they obviously managed it. And they've done reasonably well with that. But the main reason we never did it as Chrysler in those days was because of the left-hand drive, right-hand drive issue.
I think they don't bring them in as a left. As I understand correctly, they bring them out into the country with no dashboard, no steering column. Basically, so they're not a left-hand drive or a right-hand drive. They come in, and then the whole process gets put together on this side. But that still gets me to the point of, I mean, Dodge, especially Dodge, has such awesome brands and stuff. And guys were always upset that we never got the cool stuff. I mean, we got the 300C from Chrysler. And then we got the SRT8 in the Jeeps, and I think they did the SRT On the Dodge Caliber, they did the SRT4. I think came into.
Yeah, but we never brought that one, because that again was a left-hand drive.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it is strange because, you know, the Dodge Charger and Challenger is the same platform as the 300C. So it's essentially the same car, albeit the Challenger was a two-door. So, you know, they could have done it if they'd put enough engineering behind it. But I just don't think that they had the volumes here to be able to carry it off. They tried for a while to get the Australians interested as well, but it just never flew properly.
But I mean, you and I, years ago, we were having the talk. I mean, this is before the Mustang and the Camaro and everything came from, because no one really knew what the feedback was going to be. If the muscle cars coming, because I mean, I think at that stage you had the 300C and you had the Chevy Lumina. The Lumina didn't make big numbers. We know that. It wasn't, I mean, if you're not talking Polo numbers, if I want to put it that way, you know?
No.
And the 300C, the same, also didn't hit that big of a sales thing. So no one knew how a muscle car would do, a proper muscle car, the Mustang or the Challenger or the Camaro would actually do in the country. It was only Ford that took a chance. I mean, and they've done extremely well apparently with that part of the market.
No, they have, and I do think that those cars would have sold well, but again, it wouldn't have been huge volumes. But you know, if Mustang sells a couple of hundred a year, that's a good sales number for them. Exactly. I don't know what their numbers are, but but that was the biggest challenge for us, and we could never get half the right-hand drive stuff, which was a pity.
What other challenges did you guys have? I mean, because you basically have this American brand that you're trying to push in Africa. What was the challenges that you guys had at the time trying to push them here?
Well, it was really just getting the right models and the volumes, because obviously, particularly when the Italians took over, they wanted to sell all the high volume stuff to the countries that would sell the most and make the most money for them. So, you know, that's why there was restrictions on getting volumes in, and I think it's the same with a lot of the brands. You know, if they can sell a car and make more money in a different market, then they would rather do it that way. But exactly. I mean, it was really getting the volumes into the country, and you know, Jeep did well for a long time. They were the market leaders in certain of the segments because they were selling the volumes.
I still love the Jeep. Like especially the Wranglers and stuff. That's just such an iconic car. And I think they bought the Bucky version out in the US now as well. I can't remember what the name is. And I don't know if that's even going to come to South Africa.
Look, I think they're looking at it, but I think it's going to make the Mercedes Bucky look like a bargain, to be quite honest, because it's going to be expensive.
But I heard that they're cancelling the Mercedes Bucky.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because there was a lack of, that was like, we always said it's a Nissan with a different badge on it, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
But we found out that there's other companies that are oh man, there was a press release that went out the other day. It's another Bucky brand, but Ford's going to be building them from now on. They're not building their own anymore.
Yeah, that's correct. It's the Amarok, the next generation of Amarok.
The next generation Amarok's now going to be built by Ford. So basically, you're going to be driving a Ranger with a VW motor.
Yeah, or however they're going to do it. But, you know, the thing is that you're not going to get away from platform sharing, because it's the way for the companies to sort of save money, or at least, at least get better value out of the products. I mean, if you look at the Jeep Grand Cherokee, that was always based off the Mercedes-Benz ML platform in any case. So, you know, and the the Fiats, some of the Fiats now are the same platforms as some of the Jeeps. The Renegade, for instance, is the same as the 500X. So, it's ways to sort of contain costs. That's the only way they're going to do it.
But guys have been doing that for years. I mean, GM between the Chevys, Pontiacs, it's always been the same cars. I mean, you can interchange your bodies between them. They all had similar styles, similar look. It was just a few tweaks here and there that made them different.
Yeah.
So guys have been sharing it. What was your background? How did you get into the car section?
When I left school, I've always had a fascination for cars. I've always loved motor vehicles. I did a technical apprenticeship when I left school. So I worked for a dealership for a couple of years. I trained as a motor technician. And that's where it started. I started with Mercedes-Benz. I moved from there into their head office, doing various different positions there. And that's basically where I'd gone from there. So I've worked in various different departments. It's pretty much only finance is the only place that I haven't worked in the motor industry. So I've been in after sales, I've been at dealership level, I've been in sales and marketing, I've been in product planning. So, there isn't a place in the companies that I've worked at that I haven't done anything other than, as I say, the finance side of it.
Yeah. But now, so when did you leave the Chrysler Group? And I mean, you're on your own now, am I right? You're doing
Yes.
Something different.
Yeah, no, I'm basically doing some consulting now and just keeping myself busy. I left almost 2 years ago now. It was the end of September 2018.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the right time to move on and try something else. And yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed my time doing what I've been doing. It's always nice to have a real job, so to speak, and having that safety net there. But it's also nice to be able to do your own thing and find what else it is that you're good at.
I think that real job safety net is very fickle at the moment in a lot of companies.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that there's just so much uncertain times at the moment. The magazine industry has just taken a tumble with this whole story, and we are fighting to try and get back in. And my wife was talking to me, and she says, it would have been so much easier if you had a day job and I went out. And I said, well, I know what's coming. I know what I'm busy with, and I know what I'm working on, and I know what's in the pipeline, and I know what's not working and what's not working. So I know where my future is going. I know where I'll be in 6 months, put it that way. I think the job market at the moment, people they know that this by end of the month they're okay. Nothing's happened. But you don't know what's going to happen in 2-3 months if companies are going to start, closing down sections, and because this bit, especially in the motoring industry, this is no car sales for 2 months. This has hurt everyone. I've already heard dealers are busy closing down everywhere, or scaling down massively.
Look, I mean, a lot of the manufacturers in this time have had to either retrench people or, they're having to work for lesser salaries and that just to keep the doors open. And it is a sad situation to be in, but having been in the motor industry for the best part of 35 years, you see the ups and downs the whole time. I mean, I've been through, I don't know how many potential retrenchment cycles over the years. And, everybody panics, and a couple of months' time, we think, okay, why were we panicking then? Everything's back to normal again.
Exactly.
But I just think the normal will be a different normal this time. But yeah, things will start picking up eventually.
It will. It will. Things will start changing slowly but surely. Like I said, it's just the fear factor needs to calm down a little bit. You know.
Yeah.
Look, we found a few weeks ago we had a woman, Rebecca, on the show. And she works for ClassicCars.com, which is one of the biggest online classic car sales websites in the world.
Okay.
And your perspective of the market would have been, everyone is trying to offload as many classic cars and stuff as much as possible because guys are trying to build capital. And she said to me that that's not what they found on the website. They actually found more people were buying cars and looking at buying cars than they were looking at selling. In actual fact, there's like to the point with stock shortage.
Okay.
So, and that completely fascinated me because I thought it would have been completely the other way around. But even now, I mean, I I get phone calls of guys trying to sell cars and that type of stuff. But I'm not getting it's not to the same, not what I expected it would be. I've got a few guys going, they've got stuff to move, but it's more the same guys that were always trying to move cars, if we'll put it that way. And I thought that I would see a lot more guys trying to push cars for cheaper just to move them, but not. I haven't seen that change either.
Yeah, look, I think the classic car market is a very different animal altogether because, you know, it's not always the general Joe public that's doing it. The guys that are into particularly the really collectible stuff, they're the ones that are probably not going to be suffer. And yeah, exactly. So, but I do think the dealers, particularly at the moment, now's the right time to be going out to buy a car because, you know, I think there's a lot of good deals out there.
Oh yeah.
Particularly on the used market or the pre-loved market because, you know, guys are downscaling. So they're taking a big knock on their big fancy car because they need to get into something cheaper. And the industry's got to move those vehicles somewhere along the line as well.
But
so
I heard like Avis dropped a huge part of their fleet. They've cut down, some of the rental guys have cut down their fleets, and all those cars have gone into the second-hand market. So you're right. Look, from what I can read going on, everyone is expecting that the second-hand market or the pre-love market is going to be taking off quite a bit. Also, excuse me, in the fact of it's conversations I hear more often these days. I had a friend the other day. He's got a Range Rover, one of the top of the Range Rovers, and he's had the car for like 4 or 5 years. And he's like, "Well, it's time to go trade it in on a new one."
Yeah.
And he says, "But his car's in excellent condition. You know, he looks after his cars." He says, and he went to the dealer and he says, first, the trade-in was just a slap in the face more than anything else of what he got offered for his car. Yeah. He says, and then while he was there getting the price on the trade-in, he went into the news section and he just spec'd his car. He says, I wasn't trying to get anything better. I just went and spec'd my car as it is. He says, and it was stupid, the cost of it. And he says he actually walked out of going, why the hell am I selling a car that I've got everything? If I trade this in, I have to buy something less because the price market has just gone up. And like I said, it's stuff I keep hearing more for the new market where more people are going, well, man, it's just too expensive, especially in the high end range. You know, the lower end range, it makes a lot more. I mean, you can pick up the cheaper ranges and stuff, and they've got a lot of stuff in it. I think your value for money sits there more than trying to buy the top of the range new X5 or something like that, you know?
Yeah, but the problem with the lower end of the market is that, you know, the dealers don't make much money on those cars. They, you know, they're really priced to go. So you've got to sell huge volumes to be able to sort of make the same money that you would make on one of the more prestige cars.
Yeah, see,
so it's always a difficult one.
I think that's what a lot of people don't think. They all think that there's like a set pricing structure that the guys make, that the profit or the profit margins on each one.
Yeah.
I think there's always a lot of perception in the market of how things going. Like, you know, going back to what we said in the days when we weren't getting the Dodge Rams and all this type of stuff, people just blamed the government. You know, government won't let us bring these cars and stuff in, not knowing that it was actually the guys deciding, or they blame the South African guys because that's not the cars that they're bringing in. I think people always thought that you guys had a choice, put it that way. And that's something I think you taught me in the beginning, was that choice wasn't there. You guys can request and say, oh man, we'd really like to get this car in. But whether that request gets heard was a completely different story.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a whole feasibility study done on it. And the bottom line with a lot of the manufacturers is, are they going to make the money that they need? Because just to bring in, and South Africa is probably the worst market in the world for having the most models and derivatives anywhere. I don't know what the statistics are like now, but 10, 15 years ago, the American market was selling 2.5, 3 million cars a year off something like 500 derivatives. The South African market, we were selling, I think it was less than 500,000 cars, and we had something like 2,000 or 3,000 different derivatives available, because, you know, Mercedes-Benz brings in the A-Class, and in that they've got 10 different models. At one stage, I think the C-Class, there was 120 different derivatives that you could get of a C-Class. Yeah, so...
But it's like BMW, what, 1 series, 2 series, 3 series, 4. I'm like, where do you even start? Yeah, what?
Exactly.
That there's so many different models that how do you pick something? Yeah.
And I mean, aside from that, you still got to do all the after sales backup on that. So a lot of the components are interchangeable between the different different models and the different derivatives. But if you've got some guy that wants a purple interior of his car, you know, you're going to be either stuck with that color, or you're going to have parts to be able to back that car up if there's a problem at a later stage. So, you know, the buying public doesn't think of these things. They just think, okay, well, you know, we can get on the phone Germany, they'll just send a part out on the next plane. But you know, you've got to have all of those things in place to be able to look after your customers properly.
It's like I said to when I was talking to Wade from Coca Tires, part price is based on manufacture. Okay, that's why a Polo part is so much cheaper than an M3 part. There's millions of Polos that were sold, which means the manufacture of those second-hand parts is so much more manufacturing that's going on, which means the cost of that part comes down. Where compared to a high-end car or something where the numbers aren't that high. So that's why people I always think you need to be wary when you buy a car that's not a mainstream car, if I want to put it that way. They come out with a different model, they're trying out a different body type or something like that, because that could be something that they discontinue very quickly, and parts will become a problem for it very, very soon, because there wasn't as much backup made for it, because it's only a model that was in the market for two or 3 years more than anything else. Yeah,
absolutely. And a yellow Dodge Caliber was probably never going to be a collectible car in any case. So you've just got to be, and marketing also comes into it a lot, because I'll use the example of the yellow Dodge Caliber. I mean, at one stage when we were bringing those cars in, we had a lot of them in stock. We couldn't give the cars away. Started using them in the ad campaigns, and we couldn't get enough of them. People just wanted them. So,
kidding me?
Yeah. So that also comes into the game quite a bit.
Oh, look, the one I said to my wife, look, there's one car from Chrysler that if I see it pop up, I will probably sell one of my kids to buy it, because it's just the 300C wagon.
Yes.
Oh, I don't know how many you guys did in South Africa, especially because I know I think they did them with the V6s as well, but there was a few that came out with the Hemis. That I just love that thing. That thing is so beautiful.
And there was one SRT8 that was brought in that was our MD's company car for a while, and it was then sold out into the market and that. And if we brought in more of those, it was a black one that. So whoever's got that has a genuine collectible there.
The funniest thing is, you wonder if he actually knows that he's got one, that he's got a collectible car. I mean, if there's only one SRT8 wagon in the country, so let's hope whoever it is watching the show, we'll probably see it on Auto Trader in the next 2 weeks with a massive number on it.
The value's just gone up.
completely. Yeah. But I mean, the SRT8s, it's just a beautiful car. It's just such a stock of beautiful. And then when Jeep brought out the SRT8 Grand Cherokee, I mean, also that first one as the world's fastest SUV. What are you? Okay, so you're consulting at the moment. Anything interesting that you're busy with at the moment?
Nothing really that I can talk about here, but I've been. The nice thing about consulting is that you now get to talk to a number of the different brands. So you're not just stuck to the same brands that you've been dealing with in the past. I do that. I'm also still a very keen photographer. I used to do quite a bit of photography for the cars and what have you. And I've never sort of pursued it as a business. I just think it's a bit of a difficult business to get into, particularly in this country. I mean, the manufacturers tend to stick to the usual guys. I mean, I saw you had Chris last week on your show.
Wall, yes.
Yeah, and I think he probably alluded to the fact that it's a very difficult business to be in at the moment. So, but it's that these are kind of my interests, and I've loved cars. I've always loved shooting cars, and it's a good hobby to have.
Art, I always like to call it. It's art in motion, more than anything else. What I love about, I mean, when I don't shoot cars as much as I used to. When I started the magazine, I mean, I did all the photo shoots and stuff myself. But you start appreciating the lines on every model, whether it's a small one or a big model, top of the range or entry level. You start admiring the lines and everything that goes into the design process of that. It always reminds me something. The guys at Cadillac said the one day that the latest model Cadillac was still based on a design lines from, I think it was the 1950s. And even the most modern car, they always keep it's a style lines the style in it. And that was always phenomenal to think that level of thinking goes into the design of the whole thing. And if you think of, like I said, the process of how a car gets built these days, it's the fact that, like you said, so you've got these interchangeable running gear bottom sections that the guys, or infrastructure that the guys are doing, but then they're trying to put a different model, and then they're trying to change the body aspects of the top section to be individual as possible. That's why you've got so many models that just look so similar across different brands at the moment, because everyone's using the same platform because of the amount of money and research and amalgamation and testing that goes into just building that bottom structure, that main structure of a car.
Yeah, look, I mean, I really do pity the designers, because, you know, to come up with something sort of new and different nowadays is a very difficult task, because, you know, a car is a car, but you've got those finer details that are what sets the cars apart. And you've also got to keep that whole family lineage going, because, you know, you don't want your new BMW to look like a Hyundai or a whatever else.
Exactly.
So yeah, you've just got to be careful how you go about doing it.
Richard, thank you so much for being on the show, man. I know you still got stuff to do, and I've still got kids. That's the one thing about working from home these days. I'm trying to be a captaining of industry while being a daddy nanny at the same time. But yeah, so thank you so much for being on the show. And this is all the best going forward, man. Definitely.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
And I'd like to see some of your photography. Send us some photos. I'd love to see some of the stuff that you do. And then, like I said, all the best going forward, man. All right.
Okay, great. Thanks,
All right. All right, Rich. Thanks, man. Have a good one. Cheers.
You too. Bye-bye.